Hey there, how's it going? In this video, I wanted to go over a student's model. His name is Gary, and Gary is struggling with both the technical and the artistic side of making a character. So I had advised Gary to go and make a very simplistic character, and I don't think you can get more simple than Kirby. But Kirby is also he's difficult in his own right, and I just kind of wanted to build Kirby from scratch and show exactly how I would go about it. But I want to start with Gary's model and kind of show him how I would go about starting from where he's at and taking him beyond just down the path and show him how to do it. Okay, so I'm going to go grab his model right now. He saved a Z project, which I advised you to save a Z tool. Where you save a Z tool is right over here, save as. Okay, so a Z project, just the files get really heavy. So that's why I advise to always save a Z tool. And that's module 1, lesson 1 if you want to learn more about it. Okay, but you can also, and this is kind of new, you can load a Z tool out of a Z project. See how it says load tools from project? I'm going to click on this and I'm going to go grab Gary's model out of that project. Okay, so we're going to start here. And this is how far Gary got. And so you can see he's both struggling with the tech and the art. So I just want to go into talking about both along the way. Okay, first of all, I want to suggest for all you new users, you brand new character artists out there, I usually recommend keeping everything in one subtool except for the eyes and the ruler. That's usually when I'm blocking out a character. That's how I like to organize everything, because you can always put your objects into polygroups and organize them that way. And the reason I put my eyes in a separate subtool is because typically I don't want to accidentally skew them away from a sphere. I know Kirby's a little different because his eyes are not spheres, they're actually elongated, almost planes, but we're gonna separate them out anyway. Okay, so we're gonna grab this body. Also, you notice on these subtools, if you accidentally click on the start, you can turn it off right here. The start is something that is meant to be used for live Boolean, and since we're not really using live Boolean for this character, we're just gonna not use that. Okay, so, and it looks like you, Gary, you were trying to use live Boolean with this mouth, or you were trying to just kind of float some geometry on the surface to represent the mouth. And I'm going to show you how I would make the mouth. Usually you want to make the mouth into a cavity, like an actual cavity inside the body of the character, and we're going to do that with Kirby here. Okay, so we're not going to need these two subtools, so I'm going to delete them, this one and this one. Okay, and then we are not going to do geometry with the cheeks, so I'm going to delete that because they're just painted on the surface, so I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to combine the feet with the body, but I want to put the body up on top, not above the ruler, but on the top of the list. And then I'm going to clear the mask off of there, and then we'll merge the body with the feet. Okay, so I'm going to merge down like this. Okay, so now we have Kirby's body merged with his feet, and the eyes are in a separate subtool. Okay, first of all, we were talking in the Discord channel with Gary and kind of giving him some advice as far as looking at the concept and really focusing on it and measuring things. So, for example, let me make sure I don't have perspective turned on. You don't want to have perspective turned on. But I wanted to show you, if you look at this foot, you can see how the foot is extending all the way past the front of the head. Now, if you look at the concept, the foot only goes to about where the eye is on the character, okay? So that's the first thing we need to do, is shorten that foot. And we were also suggesting maybe doing some drawovers of this character. Let me just kind of do some drawovers really quickly. I'm using the snipping tool that just comes with Windows. It's not anything special. But another student in this Discord channel was suggesting to kind of eyeball across the character to make kind of different quadrants. and kind of help measure. Okay, then it will just kind of help you figure out where things live. Okay, so for this, for example, we made a cross here, and if we go down, if we look at like the front and the back, and we split this in half, it looks like the foot is in half again, half again. Okay, when I say measure, that's what I'm talking about. Let's measure this, and it looks like the foot is about, you know, halfway. It's like a fourth, right? It ends up in the fourth in the back and a fourth in the front. If you split this into 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, it takes up the center half. All right. So, and then if we look at it from the front, we can also do another quad cut in the front. And we'll see how this all lines up. And if you look at the feet, they stick out here and stick out here. They go a little bit past the edge here. And then you have this little space in between the feet. And you'll notice that the feet they look like half of a sphere, okay? They're a little bit pulled in this direction, but for the most part, they look like a half of a sphere, okay? So we can either do one of two things. We can take the foot that you have and we can nudge it around and fix it, or we can delete it and just draw a new sphere and cut it in half. That's the easy way, but I did want to show you because we've mentioned, you know, you don't have to start over every time. You can nudge what you already have. And if you were going to go about nudging around what you already have, if I hit Shift F to show the wireframe, you can see that these feet are now in the same poly group as the head. What I want to do is hit Auto Groups underneath the custom menu here. Auto Groups, and that's going to put every object into its own poly group. Then we can use Mirror and Weld. Now, Mirror and Weld is key to keeping your character symmetrical. Okay, so I just clicked on it, and you can see that it copied the poly groups over, and it kept everything symmetrical. Another thing that will help you keep your character symmetrical is make sure you utilize snapping your camera to the front and to the side with Shift. Okay, so if I just kind of hover over here and I don't use Shift to snap, or if I kind of hover over to the front and I'm not using Shift, and then I start using the move brush, there is a good chance that you're going to accidentally pull it off of symmetry. Now, the easiest way to pull it off of symmetry is by using the gizmo. So if I show the gizmo by hitting W, I can reset the gizmo by holding down Alt and clicking on this arrow. And then if I start to move it like this or rotate it like this, you can see that it's automatically busted the symmetry, okay? So try not to use the gizmo on something that is crossing that center line, because it's very, very simple to break the symmetry, okay? But if you do happen to break the symmetry, I'm gonna turn symmetry off right now and just kind of scoot this over. So say you have some lines that are just messed up. What you can do is just kind of come in here with your move brush, get it as close as possible to the center, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna mirror the left half over to the right half, or the character's right to the character's left, okay? By hitting Mirror and Weld. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna kind of fix it, okay? It's gonna fix the symmetry, and then I can turn symmetry back on and then smooth it down, and it's kind of fixed, okay? Okay, so with that in mind, I want to fix these feet. So I'm going to show the gizmo, and since the feet are not crossing that center line, we can use the gizmo a lot to manipulate these, okay? So if I hold down Control and tap anywhere on these points on the bottom, what it's going to do is it's going to mask everything else off and isolate the feet, okay? So now I have the gizmo kind of ready to go down here, except for it's kind of skewed. It's not pointing down the foot. So what I can do is hold down Alt. Come on, hold down Alt, and then I'm trying to grab this little green. Oh, I'm holding down Control. Hold down Alt, which unlocks the gizmo, okay? And then move the green like this, just so it's pointing down the shoe like this. And why did I do that? Because I want to actually want to pull the gizmo to the back of the shoe like this. because then what I can do is I can scale the shoe on this acting as a pivot. Okay, so I can grab this red box and pull it back in space to about where I think it should be, which is about, I'm looking at it from the side, let's pull it back in space, something like this. If you think about our drawing that had it split into quarters, I want the shoe to be where it should be, okay? And then the feet should be on the ground, like straight on the ground. So I'm gonna rotate these out like this so they're flat, and then hold down shift and snap from the side and make sure it's flat from the side as well. Now you can see how this foot is not shaped like a half sphere, okay? So let's go in there and shape it so it's more spherical, okay? And how I do that is I just grab the move brush, and from the bottom I would just nudge this around until, I'm using quite a large brush, until these feet represent the bottom of a sphere. And they're a little elongated in the front, but not much, okay? Okay, so now we have these, and let's fix the shape of the top. Now we can isolate these feet so we can get in where the feet are being hidden by the body. And how you do that is you hit Control Shift, tap on one of these points, and that will isolate the feet. Okay, now we can come in here with the alternate smooth, which is, I will hold down Shift, I'll start to smooth, and then I'll let go. And that's the alternate smooth that gives more of a relax rather than a shrink. Okay, so I can shrink it and then let go, and then it will relax. And then I can just kind of go around the edges of this shoe with that alternate smooth. And then I can grab the move brush again and just shape it so it looks more like a half of a sphere. And I'm just nudging like this. Okay, and again, I could have just deleted these and drawn a real half sphere on here and started there, but I just wanted to show you that you're not stuck. If you do something accidentally, you have options, okay? You can either nudge what you have or start over. It depends on how you feel about it and where you're at, okay? Now, I'm smoothing it down because these edges on his shoes, they're not super sharp, okay? They're quite smooth. What I mean by that is, let's pull this drawing up again, is, let me erase these lines. This edge is curved right here. It doesn't come down and then go sharp like that. See that sharp edge? So we need to smooth that out. And how you can smooth that out is just by using the smooth. And this has already been Z-remeshed. We can Z-remesh it again just to give us better topology, which we'll do, and then we'll come and smooth it down even more. But I'm pretty happy with this shape now, so we can unhide. And then what we want to do is we want to check our proportions. What does that mean? That just means check all of our measurements, okay, against the actual concept. So what we can do to start with that, and in Discord we've actually suggested to Gary that he take the concept and overlay it over the top of the character to check the proportions. Okay, what we're going to want to do though is this concept is kind of in perspective. It's not quite orthographic. What that means is if from the side you can see both feet. If it was an orthographic side view, you could only see one foot and it would be flat on the ground. Same with from the back, same with from the front. If it was orthographic, those feet would be perfectly flat, just like we have our Kirby right here, okay? So we're gonna turn on perspective, and you can see automatically that it becomes closer, it's starting to look closer to this because we turned perspective on. Okay, I also want to make sure that I want to set the focal distance to 50 so it's not as skewed as far as the perspective goes. So we're going to change this focal distance to 50. Okay, so it's kind of in between orthographic and perspective. Okay, we don't want to model in perspective, but we want to check our model in perspective. Okay, so how do we overlay this so we can see our model behind it? I'm going to hit Z or Z to pull up this ring, and then we're going to move it over here. And what I like to do is whichever of these I want to focus on, I'm going to hover the ring over that and drop it there. Then I can grab this scale button and scale it up large. And I'm going to roll it just a couple times to make it big. And now you can see that we have, see these squares right here? Those are caused by 100% black. So any image that comes in that has 100% black, the black is going to be changed to alpha. So that's what's going on there. And to fix that, all we need to do is click on intensity right here. See this right here? Turn that on so there's like this little green slash above it, and then roll it just up to the right. So if I go further to the left, it's going to expose more of that black to be transparent. But if I go to the right, those little squares are going to disappear. Okay, now over here I have opacity. So if I click opacity and roll it to the left and to the right, it's going to either make it more opaque or more transparent. And I want it more transparent because we're going to hover our model behind it. Okay, I'm going to scale it up just a little bit, and I want to put this image in the center of my canvas, okay, as much as I possibly can, because here I just hit Z again to hide the ring. But if we take our model over to this side, you'll see that we can see more of the left side of the character. And if I move it over here, it's more of the right side. So I want to get that as in the middle of my canvas as possible so it's not skewed, okay? Then I'm going to grow my model to fit behind this image as closely as I can possibly get it. I'm just kind of trying to match the body size. And now if I look at these feet, I can see that the feet are slightly larger than they should be. Now, this is only a reference, so we're only going to use it as a reference. We don't have to match it exact, but because what's more important is getting our character to match the look and the feel of the concept. Our character should look and feel exactly like that concept. And sometimes concept artists don't get their proportions exactly right when you're comparing your 3D model to their concept. Sometimes the perspective is off, sometimes it's distorted or pushed. So that's where experience comes in for a character modeler, as far as like knowing if that's going to work or not, okay? And I'm going to hide these eyes for now because they're a bit distracting. But so what I want to do is I want to grab the gizmo again, and we're going to isolate the foot again. I'm going to hold down Control, tap on the inside of the foot because I want to scale it down from this point right here. Okay, and local symmetry, make sure that's turned on. Otherwise, when you go to scale your feet, it's going to scale to the center of the character. If you have local symmetry on, it's going to scale. This actually looks the same, but let me move the gizmo over here. It's going to scale to the point of the gizmo. Otherwise, it's going to scale to the center of the character no matter where your gizmo is, okay? So that's what local symmetry means. So let's turn that on, snap our gizmo over here, and then scale it down to match the proportions of the concept. And that's what some of the other students were suggesting, Gary, is that you hover the concept over the top of the character. Now, what else can you notice from this being overlaid on your character? Obviously, the arms are too high. So these arms right here. And while we have the character, or while we have the concept overlaid, we can just grab these arms and just kind of nudge them into place in this spot and just kind of move them into place right here. And we can scale them down just slightly to fit. Okay, so now we have just a better start to our character. Now what we can do, since we're done with this, is, well, we can slide it down. So, whoops, we can grab this, the concept. You have to move the ring and then grab inside the ring to move the concept around. Move this ring, move it down to here, because what I want to do is just kind of look at the character from the side. Okay, so now I'm going to hit Z to hide the ring, and that will allow us to move our character, and we're going to snap it to the side and scale it down to kind of match, and just take a look to see what this looks like. Okay, so now what we can do is grab our move brush, and just nudge this arm a little bit closer into where we need it to be. And then again, we can clear our mask, hold down Control, click on these feet, and I want to nudge the feet closer to match the concept. I don't want to take it up like this because that would be skewing the foot. I don't want to do that. But this is how you kind of match the concept if you have a turn. Now, that being said, I usually don't like to have a turn of my character. It's nice that you found a character turn like this because it will really help you kind of dissect what's happening in the concept. But I'm going to crank the opacity back all the way up and just kind of park this back in the corner. Hit Z, move our character down and clear the mask, okay? So now what we have is our character is just a little bit closer to the concept. Make sure you turn perspective off so we can start to work on it again, okay? So this is where we're at here. But what I was saying is I typically only like to have a concept that looks either like this or like this. Typically like this, because this will give me kind of all the information I need, or I would like to have concept that has 3/4 front and a back 3/4, because then I can see if there's anything back there that I need to model that I couldn't see in this view. But then the reason I say that is because otherwise you're asking the concept artist to kind of do your work for you, and that's typically not the case. Usually you will get either a single image like this or an image with this and this to model from, and you won't get a turn like this. Okay, so anyway, let's get back to it here. So now we have our arm in the correct location, the feet in the correct location. What I want to do is add the mouth. Now, the mouth I actually want to put in a cavity, like a hole in his face, because that's what a mouth is. You actually have a hole in your face, specifically with Kirby. Kirby, that's how he works. His mouth opens really, really huge and he just sucks everything in. And then he gets those abilities, right? So the mouth is very important. So we're going to want to have a mouth that can actually function. And how we're going to do that is I want a little bit more geometry to work with. We're going to end up Z-remeshing this, but this geometry is a little light for what I want to do. So I'm going to hit Control D and subdivide it once. Now you can't really tell that it's done anything. But if I come over to here, to geometry, and you look at the subdivision levels, it now has 2. Okay, we want to get rid of 1, so we're going to hit delete lower. Now you can see that it's actually quadrupled the subdivision count. Okay, now we have more geometry to work with because we're going to want to make this a round mouth cavity. And how we do this is it's super simple. We're just going to mask it off and pull it in. Okay, I want to kind of make the mouth cavity where his mouth is on here, just kind of generally in the location. It's slightly below center. So this line is center. It's slightly below center. And again, you can grab a screen grab of this and you could bring it into Photoshop and use the rulers and measure, because measuring is super important. You don't just want to slap the stuff on there. Okay, you don't just want to, slam the arms on there and the feet on there and just kind of hope you're close. You want to really, really measure and really define at where the shapes are and how they live on the surface, okay? All right, so I'm gonna mask this off, invert the mask. So now we have this little space right here. Grab the gizmo, and I'm gonna hold down Alt and tap on the center of that unmasked area. Hold down Shift, snap the camera to the side, and just push this into about here. And that's gonna create kind of this mouth cavity, okay? And now I can clear the mask. And it's a little jaggedy now. And I can just grab my move brush and just kind of move some of these points around to make it a little more round. And what I can do again is one more time, I'm going to add another subdivision level. Okay, and then I'm going to smooth this down because I want to make it as round as possible for the Z remesher to follow. And I can even take the move brush and push well, carefully push this geometry in more, just to make more of a cavity. Okay, just something like this. Okay, so there's kind of the start of his mouth. I can start to close it a little bit. You don't want to close it too much because then your Z remesher won't work as well. Okay, so it's just kind of this little hole now. Now I can't do a Z remesher if I have subdivision levels. So again, I'm going to hit delete lower. It's going to increase those subdivision levels even more. And now at this point, I'm going to Z remesh it. Okay, so I'm going to turn off half, and let's see. I'm going to turn on keep groups, and then turn this down to about 3,000. Okay, 3,000. Hit Z remesher, see what happens. Fingers crossed. Okay, so it actually did a pretty good job because this is exactly what I want. Well, not exactly. It's got some weird poles and things going on in here. But what we can do now is we can just kind of smooth this out a little bit and look at all sides. Look at the feet, they're doing pretty well, and the arms, and then just do it one more time. Okay, so now it's just going to clean that up a little bit, and this is pretty good. Okay, this is something that we can work with to make the mouth out of. Okay, so now what we want to do is just start to nudge this mouth closed now that we actually have a cavity. And we need to be careful because if I just grab this and close it like this, what it's going to do is it's going to flatten this sphere out. So look at it from the side, it's just flat. It's no longer taking on that, that round appearance. I was just checking to see if perspective was turned on. So what we need to do is kind of pull it up and out and follow the spherical shape of the whole thing. And then I want to pull the top down to start making that smile. And just by nature, it's going to flatten out. We need to push the corners, just nudge it around. And when you start to get too close, you'll notice that you can't move the top lip without moving the bottom lip. So we're going to want to turn on topological, change your range to 2 or 3. And now I can move the bottom lip without affecting the top lip too much. Okay, and we can get a smaller brush and just kind of make this smile. And usually I like to make the top lip go over the bottom lip a little bit. And then we're going to hold down smooth, make sure your intensity, I'm holding down shift, make sure your intensity is around 6 or so. And then start to smooth this out and then let go of smooth so it relaxes and evens all of this geometry out. That is why I like to have my wireframe showing a lot of the time, is so I can look at this wire mesh density and make sure it's nice and even, because that's going to give me the cleanest surface for my character. Okay, so now what I can do is, now that this mouth is sort of closed, I can come in with inflate and just lightly go over this mouth and finish closing it up like this. Okay, so now we have a nice, clean, closed mouth. And I can turn on, let's turn off the wireframe. Okay, so now we have this mouth, and we can hit D to turn on dynamic subdivision, which will smooth everything out. Okay, so now we have these feet and these arms, and I want to adjust the arm connection and the arm a little bit just to add a tiny bit of weight to it. I just want to pull the bottom down and out just to make it kind of feel like, you can see in the concept, even though they're little nubbins, they feel like they're hanging down and they have a little bit of weight to them, okay? And I want to pull them out away from the body a little bit more, and then I want to lessen the connection on the front. You can see how the line stops here. That just, to me, that is telling me that the angle of the connection between the arm and the body is less than this. Okay, it's like I want to get that connection to be straighter in if I can. Okay, so I'm going to hide this sphere and just kind of pull it out in this direction, just nudge it, just so that connection is lessened. The angle of the connection is lessened, even though it's kind of more, it's making it a teardrop shape more. I just want to try and get it there. Okay. Now we have the mouth, now we have the arms. I want to put the eyes in. Okay, and it looks like if you can take your character and bring it, see this white line? You can use that white line to your advantage, almost like a ruler. And you can hover it down there. You can see that the bottom of the foot is not lining up with that line. So I'm going to grab the gizmo, hold control, tap on the feet, and just rotate them slightly so they're straighter and flatter on the ground. I clear that mask again. Okay, and it still feels like the feet are too far forward. So I'm actually going to undo that. Reset the gizmo by holding down Alt and clicking on this arrow, and then sliding the feet backwards just a little bit. Remember I said it's more about feel than it is actually one-to-one with the concept drawing. You're trying to recreate the character and the feel of that character, okay? Also, if I look here, it feels like those feet are closer together than what I have them. Okay, so I'm going to move. To reset this, I'm just going to move them a little closer and make them just slightly bigger this way. Okay, so then they're closer, and I'm going to look at it from the side. And like I said, it feels like he's got a toe. So I'm just going to push the toe out slightly, just like this, and bring this shape in just barely, just to get it to feel more like the concept is feeling. So it's more like this on the front and sharper angle on the back. It's just little subtleties like that that really make your character shine. Okay? And then another thing is, like I said, the bottom of the feet are round, not sharp. So I want to just come in here with the smooth brush and just smooth out those edges evenly all the way across so it feels like they're smooth. Okay, because yeah, Kirby is just round. The shape language is round. Everything about him is round. There's nothing sharp about him. Even though his feet are flat, they're not sharp. Okay, so I just want to round him out. Okay, so now we have this rounded edge. Okay, so the next thing is the eyes. Now the eyes that you have currently, I can see that you've Z-remeshed them, and they're kind of a mess. So I just want to recreate those. So I'm going to delete these, but I could nudge these around and make them work, but I think it'd be easier just to redo them. So I'm going to hit delete, go back to the face, and we're going to grab, insert multi-mesh, this quad sphere right here. And we're just going to draw them on the surface like this. Okay, and obviously his eyes are not spheres. They're almost painted on the surface. Actually, for the most part, they are painted on the surface. So you can actually paint them on the surface if you like, or make them into actual geometry. It's up to you. We are going to paint the cheeks on there, but I did want to show you, if you wanted to make them out of geometry, here's how you would do it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to elongate them and scale them down. And I'm looking at the space between the eyes to make sure they're proper. And then I'm going to measure them. They're right above where the edges of this smile stop. They're just about right here with about one eye's width between them. And they're elongated, okay? And then they're very, very shallow. They're not bulging out. Then I can rotate this to match the surface of the sphere. Then if I look at it from the bottom, I need to rotate them so they match the surface of the sphere. Push them in as far as I can. Still looking at this surface. If I push it in anymore, it's going to start to envelop the edges and disappear like so. You know, it's like, so I need to be careful not to do that. And I can only take it so far with the gizmo until I need to switch to my move brush and start nudging them around the surface. Okay, something like this. I can just start pushing them and making them kind of wrap around the surface. And I'm just kind of watching this edge and making it like sink inside the surface the same all the way around. So this is sunken in too far. I'm going to pull it out. This one's not enough. And you'll see I'm adjusting my brush size based on how much of the area I want to affect. I do that all the time. Okay, and I need to push down the center, and then I can come in here and just kind of smooth it out. Okay, so now if I hide this, another thing that's very interesting about Kirby's eyes, and this is a detail that this is something that comes with experience that you just like really, really hone in and focus on. And what I'm noticing is that the corners of his eye, or the edges of his eyes, are straighter than a perfect oval. And the curvature is mostly at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to actually squeeze his eyes in from the sides. And I'm moving the camera so when I push in the sides, it's not going to pull the eye away from the surface or push it down into the surface. Okay, so you can see now that this is more of a pill shape rather than a perfect oval. Okay, so it's just something that I noticed there, and then the difference between the mouth and the eyes. And usually I like to put the eyes in their own subtool. Okay, so while this is still masked out, I'm going to hit split unmask points and put these over into their own subtool. Okay, and then show them. Okay, now he's looking more like Kirby here, but his mouth is a little smooth for a slit mouth. If you want to know more about mouths and how to make them, I have a lesson inside of the Stylized Anatomy where I go into talking about mouths, and I talk about slit mouths and how to make them. And I'm going to show you really quick. I'm going to grab the polish brush and just kind of hover over the top of this slit mouth, and I'm going to hold down Alt, and that will actually bring the geometry up to the surface to make it crisper around the lips. Okay, and I want to smooth out that transition and make it even more of a smile, looking more like Kirby. And I'm just nudging with that move brush. Okay, pretty happy with that. Maybe just the corners. Just nudge, nudge, nudge. Okay, something like that, and just clean up if you made any warbles around here. Very important to clean all that stuff up. Make it as smooth as possible. Okay, so now we're to the point where we can check it one more time. We'll grab our reference, bring it down, hover over the one we want, scale it up, turn the opacity down, bring our model up behind it, and I think we're going to have to adjust. Oh, let's turn perspective on. That'll make a difference. We're going to have to adjust the mouth and the eyes. I made the mouth too wide and the eyes too big. Okay, so I'm just going to nudge this over and make it slightly bigger. Okay, I'm just trying to get it as close as possible. Okay, so now I'm just going to grab the body and just make the mouth match. But I want to turn it to the side. Okay, because if I'm straight on like this and I pull the mouth inwards, it's going to make this weird shape like this. So I want to turn it slightly, then pull the mouth, just nudge it, nudge, nudge, nudge. Get it much smaller. Careful not to go and make it asymmetrical across the center. I can turn topological off. I'm just smoothing it down and just kind of trying to make it work with that smaller mouth, evening out the geometry all around. Okay, so let's turn this back on and match it again and see if we're any closer. Okay, I need to move this into the center of the screen a little more and then move the image over to match. Okay, so now that we're here, I'm just gonna pull that mouth down and match it. Okay. Now, let's see. I'm going to grab these eyes, and the eyes are quite a ways off. So this is nice to be able to adjust them accordingly. We're going to bring them down here, shrink them, move them, kind of get them to where they should be, and then just narrow them down a little bit. Okay, and I'm just trying to get them as close as I can. And then we'll turn this off and then go fix them. Okay, so we're gonna, because we messed up how they roll across the surface. So we need to go back in there. And with our move brush, see how this is lifted off the surface now? This is embedded down here, this is lifted. So let's go nudge this back down into the surface. And that is what's nice, actually, about having separate geometry for the elements, is that you can move the eyes around no problem. If this was painted on the surface, you would have to repaint the eyes on the surface instead of just trying to adjust the objects. Now, the reason I'm making these eyes sunken into the surface is because if you were to print this, like 3D print this, you wouldn't want to have any undercuts around there. You just want to have it lifted off the surface enough that it wouldn't, you could see it in the print, but it wouldn't have any undercuts. Okay, so I'm feeling better about this. Let's grab the body and then just go, again, we're gonna polish the mouth down just a little bit and just go right over the surface of it and then clean it up. And there we go. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. Let's give it some color, and we should be just about done here. So let's pull this up. We're going to shrink it back down, put it back in the corner, turn the opacity back up. Now we're going to actually grab the color from our concept. So as long as this ring is showing, we can hit C and just grab, like in Kirby style, suck up the color from the concept, okay? And then I'm gonna hit Z again to hide the ring, and then making sure that we have our hard paint and our RGB selected, not material, RGB selected. We're gonna fill object, and that's gonna fill the entire thing with this pink color. Okay, now we're gonna show the Z again, the ring, C, suck up the color from the feet, hide the ring, turn on our gizmo by hitting W, hold down Control, tap on the foot to mask, isolate the feet, fill object, which will fill the feet with that color, and we can clear our mask by holding down Control, drag, let go, and then, so now we have our colors on the base mesh, and now we want to paint the little cheeks, okay? The problem is, here, let's go grab that color from the cheeks. Okay, we got the cheek color now. You can see it loaded right here. Problem is, if we have hard paintbrush, we go to paint the cheeks like this. Boom, what's going on? There's way low resolution because it's trying to paint on, if I turn dynamic subdivisions off, it's every single point can take on color. So if you look at the mesh, you can see if I paint just one single point, well, I painted 4 actually, but if I paint one point, that's what happens. That's what it looks like. We don't have enough surface geometry to get a nice clean paint job, okay? So what we need to do is add more subdivision levels for real, okay? So what I want to do is hit apply on dynamic subdivisions. And what that does is that adds 3 subdivision levels. And if we look up here to total points and active points is 77,000. I like, when I'm going to do surface painting, I like it to be closer to 1,000,000. Okay, so Control D one more time. That puts it to 300,000. Control D one more time. 1.2 million should give us plenty. Okay, so now what we can do is go in here and paint our little pink circles, right? Just be very, very careful. And what I'm looking at is the distance between the eye and that cheek circle. I'm looking at the distance between the mouth and that cheek circle, and I could probably do it again out here. That's better, okay, because it's farther away from the mouth than I initially did it. And then I'm trying to just paint it as closely as possible to get that in there. I could also project the color down on here, which is a thing. I'll project the eyes down on there and show you how to do that. Okay, so let's grab the eyes, and I want to, again, I'm going to be poly painting. Okay, so, but I want to fill it with the base color first. So I'm going to hold Z, and the base color is black, and hit Fill Object, which fills this in. And then I'm going to grab this. I'm going to turn the opacity down just a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. And then I want to hover the concept over the eyeballs and zoom it in enough that the eyeballs line up. Even though they're really low resolution, it's going to give me some idea of how to paint that in. Okay, so there we go. And if I paint this right now, it's not going to look very good. I'll show you. I got to turn spotlight projection back on in order for this to work. Okay, so I'm going to hit spotlight projection, turn it back on, grab my hard paint brush, make sure I have my eyeball selected. I'm on my eyeball subtool, okay? And then I'm going to paint on there, and it's going to do that. So I'm going to hide the concept by hitting Shift Z to hide it. And now you can see it just did an okay job. It just basically projected that low resolution paint onto here. See, I'm going out of perspective, but it's going to give me a good idea of what it should look like. Okay, so now what I can do is I can go back in here. I'm going to solo these eyes. I'm just going to come back in here and hand paint them now with using this as a guide. Okay, so, and also I didn't subdivide this up high enough. Okay, you can see that the active points is only 3,000. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to fill this in. I just wanted to show you how to project stuff if you wanted to, but I'm going to fill the whole thing with black, subdivide once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So now it's 800,000. That should be plenty. Okay, and now we're going to, we can project this again if we wanted to. Just kind of hover over. And I'm just going to look at this one, not this one. I'm going to scale it kind of past just a little bit and then paint this the center because I just want a guide. It's being really slow. Really slow. Hope it doesn't mess with my recording. Okay, I'm just going to paint this as a guide. Okay, and then hide it. Okay, so this is just my guide. And what I want to do now is, I have dynamic subdivisions on. That's why it's really slow and chunky. Dynamic subdivisions and real subdivisions do not play well together. So I want to make sure I turn that off. Now I can actually eyeball drop the color right from here. And you can see how much smoother that is. Okay, so I'm going to actually go past where this should be, grab this black color and come back in and just kind of cut it out of here. Just got to be super careful with it. And do the same thing with this. I want to get it even on both sides. Actually, this is a little brighter. Let's go brighter white with that. And I can make my brush larger to kind of help me get the circular shape. And then I just got to come in and clean up this black side here. Okay, something like that. You can come in and just, paint, clean it up as much as you want to, spend as much time as you want to. Okay, but there you go, Kirby in perspective. That is how I would make Kirby. Okay, now he has the mouth. His slit mouth is a little thin now. What you could do with that is just come back in here and just kind of run smooth over it. But now I need to turn spotlight projection off. Just make sure it's off so it actually functions and works. Just trying to figure out why that's not working. Oh, maybe because I have my highest subdivision level on. So let's go to level 2 and just smooth that. There we go. Okay. Okay. So basically, if you have a very high subdivision level on there and you have your smooth intensity down to 6, it's not going to really do much. You'd have to crank that smooth intensity really high in order for it to do something, or you can go down in subdivision levels to get it to work. Okay, so anyway, here's the after. Let's put that right here, and then snapshot it to the canvas. How you do that is just hit Shift S. See it? It's now snapshotted to the canvas, and now I'm going to load in Gary's old model, just so we can kind of see the before and after. So load tools from project. We're going to grab Gary's Kirby and change this to white. Okay, and just kind of scale it down. So here's the before and the after. I can turn on dynamic subdivision so it doesn't look so crazy, but that's essentially how I would go about creating Kirby. The biggest part of this that I want you guys to take away is, even though it's a simple character, it's really not that simple. Okay, you need to pay attention to the subtle details. And I'm not talking about surface details like little lines and whatever. I'm talking about attention to detail. I'm talking about looking at the concept and matching it exactly. Like the little details, like the curves in the bottom of the feet, where the arm connects to the body, and making sure that that's not too harsh. Where the eyeballs are not perfect ovals, but they're actually elongated like pill shapes. Okay, things like that are what kind of separates the advanced from the beginner. Okay, so I know you're a beginner, but I really wanted you to make this super simplistic character so you can focus on your shapes and getting them right, and really focusing on measuring everything. Measure, 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 measure. That's how you will get your character to look like the concept. Okay, I really, really hope this helped, and thank you so much for asking me to review the model and help you out. So thanks, take care, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.